I never expected my life to change so drastically over a single conversation at the kitchen table. My name is Ryan, a 21-year-old university student balancing part-time work at a local bookstore and late-night online classes. My life was routine, comfortable, and most importantly, predictable. That predictability was about to shatter, courtesy of my mother and her insistence on helping me find myself, which, in hindsight, was the calm before a storm I could never have foreseen. Growing up, my mother, Linda, had always been particular about appearances. Fashion, etiquette, and social presentation weren't just hobbies for her. They were essentials, pillars of how she believed the world should see you. As a kid, I resented the constant emphasis on clothing coordination, hairstyles, and posture drills. But now, in my early 20s, I understood her logic, even if I didn't always agree. Still, I had my own personal interests, and one of them had been a private fascination with crossdressing. Alone in my room, I'd experiment with clothes, makeup, and styles that made me feel more expressive, more like the version of myself that I rarely showed anyone. But I never told anyone, not my friends, not my classmates, not even Emma. Emma had been my girlfriend for nearly a year, and she adored me as Ryan. She was sweet, curious, and supportive, though our conversations about personal expression never strayed into deeper territory. I worried too much about judgment, about losing her affection, if I revealed my private side. My secret life as a crossdresser was mine alone, hidden behind layers of modesty and hesitation. The day everything changed began like any other. The smell of coffee wafted from the kitchen, sunlight spilling lazily over the hardwood floors of our small apartment. I was scrolling through emails on my laptop, barely awake, when my mother burst through the door with a folder in her hand and that unmistakable gleam of mischief in her eyes. "Ryan," she said, her tone both commanding and teasing, "we need to talk about your future and your image." I raised an eyebrow, unsure whether to groan or laugh. "Mom, it's 8 in the morning," I protested, rubbing my eyes. She didn't flinch. Instead, she laid the folder on the table and opened it with exaggerated flourish. "I've drafted a contract for you." A contract? My heart skipped a beat. Contracts, in her world, were serious business. They weren't the casual agreements we made for chores or deadlines. They were formal, meticulously written, and impossible to ignore. "Yes," she said, beaming as if she had just solved the world's problems. "A contract that will transform you into the stylish, elegant daughter I know you can be. It's simple. Follow my guidelines, adhere to the rules, and in return, you'll receive guidance, grooming, and privileges befitting a refined young woman." I blinked. "Privileges? Clothes, accessories, makeup lessons, the works," she said with a grin. "And yes, I mean a complete makeover. If you agree, you'll become my fashionable daughter, representing our family with grace and style." My stomach churned. The idea was exhilarating and terrifying. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, say no, and retreat to my familiar routines. But another part, an almost secretive, thrilling part, felt a spark of excitement. This was an opportunity to explore the side of me I had kept hidden for years, the side I called Lila when I was alone in my room. And the stakes weren't just cosmetic, they were social, psychological, and deeply emotional. I picked up the contract, skimming through the sections. Each clause outlined expectations: clothing choices, makeup tutorials, social behavior, posture, and etiquette. The tone was strict but oddly enticing. At the bottom, my mother had written in flowing handwriting, "Sign this, and you'll step into a new life. Your transformation will be guided, celebrated, and complete. Refuse, and life remains as it is." I stared at it, my fingers trembling slightly. Emma entered the room, curious about the folder in my hands. "What's that?" she asked. I hesitated. Could I tell her the truth? Could I explain that this wasn't just a casual experiment, but a formal, almost magical transformation proposed by my mother? My mind raced. Lying felt natural. I could describe it vaguely, frame it as a fun challenge with Mom. But even as I considered it, a thrill ran down my spine. I could feel Lila stirring inside me, whispering possibilities, coaxing me toward acceptance. Mom's eyes locked onto mine. "It's your choice," she said softly, though her tone carried weight. "But if you want to embrace a new, stylish, feminine identity, the contract is your first step. Sign it and everything changes." I could almost hear the universe holding its breath. One signature, one decision, and my ordinary life would spiral into an extraordinary transformation. I glanced at Emma, searching her expression for clues. She smiled warmly, oblivious to the gravity of my internal debate. Swallowing hard, I picked up the pen. My hand shook as I traced my signature across the paper, each stroke sealing my fate. The instant I finished, my mother clapped her hands together, radiant with approval. "Excellent. The transformation begins today." A sudden rush of anticipation hit me. The world felt sharper, brighter, more intense. My secret life, once hidden and private, was now poised to emerge. The idea of walking through life as Lila, graceful, stylish, confident, was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Emma leaned over my shoulder. "What did you sign?" she asked again, curiosity piqued. I forced a smile, heart pounding. "Just a little experiment with Mom," I said vaguely. "Nothing serious." But deep down, I knew it wasn't nothing. It was everything. My secret self, my hidden passions, and my curiosity about femininity were about to collide with the world. And I would have to navigate each step carefully, balancing secrecy, self-discovery, and the suspense of exposure. The first task came almost immediately. Mom handed me a set of outfits, each carefully coordinated, along with makeup supplies and accessories. "Your transformation starts now," she said. "Learn to walk, talk, and present yourself as the daughter I know you can be. You'll be my stylish girl, whether you're ready or not." I stepped back, my heart pounding. The thrill and fear of what lay ahead surged through me. Alone in my room later, I laid out the clothes, feeling the soft fabrics brush against my skin. The skirts, blouses, and delicate shoes were more than clothing. They were symbols of the journey I was about to undertake. As I tried on the first outfit, I felt Lila stirring, pushing forward, guiding my movements. The mirror reflected someone new, someone I hadn't fully seen before, someone delicate, stylish, and undeniably feminine. Every detail, the curve of my hips, the sway of the fabric, the shimmer of makeup, felt electric. I realized then that this wasn't just about clothes or appearance. It was about identity, secrecy, and the delicate balance between who I was and who I could become. Every glance, every movement, every whispered thought was charged with suspense, excitement, and fear. The journey had begun. Mom's contract wasn't just a set of rules. It was a doorway into a world I had always dreamed of exploring but never dared to enter. And as I stood there, dressed in Lila's first outfit, I understood that my life, as Ryan, had ended. From this moment on, every step would be a careful dance between identity, desire, and the thrilling unknown. The days following the signing of Mom's contract became a whirlwind I hadn't anticipated. Every morning, I woke up to a carefully curated schedule of self-presentation lessons, wardrobe coordination, and makeup tutorials. My once simple, comfortable life as Ryan was gone, replaced by an intricate, demanding routine that left little room for mistakes. Mom hovered constantly, not just supervising, but instructing with the precision of a drill sergeant and the enthusiasm of a proud parent unveiling her masterpiece. "Posture matters," she said one morning, guiding my shoulders into a perfect line. "The way you move, the way you walk, it communicates everything before you even speak." I nodded, cheeks burning with embarrassment and excitement. As I adjusted to her demands, I couldn't ignore the strange thrill coursing through me. The skirts, the blouses, the soft fabrics brushing against my skin, they weren't just clothing. They were a transformation of identity. Every glance in the mirror revealed Lila, the stylish, feminine version of me my mother had envisioned, delicate and confident, yet trembling with vulnerability. Emma stopped by one afternoon, curious about my sudden dedication to Mom's little experiment. Her presence both comforted and terrified me. I wanted to show her my progress, to share the excitement, but I feared her reaction. What if she saw Lila as more than just an experiment? What if she judged me? I carefully explained the situation in vague terms, framing it as a playful challenge with my mother. Emma smiled, intrigued but accepting. "Well, it suits you," she said. "You look different but good." Her words were reassuring, yet I felt an undercurrent of suspense. Lila's existence wasn't just cosmetic, it was a secret that could explode at any moment. One evening, alone in my room, I began the first real transformation session. The outfit Mom had chosen was elegant, a pastel blouse paired with a flowing skirt and delicate heels. As I slipped into the clothes, I felt a subtle shift, almost as if the fabric itself demanded grace, poise, and confidence. Lila's presence surged within me, soft but commanding, insisting that I move and speak in this new form. The makeup tutorial was the hardest part. Mom demonstrated techniques with patience, guiding my hands as I applied foundation, blush, and eyeshadow. Each stroke was deliberate, each color a signal that I was leaving Ryan behind and embracing Lila. The mirror reflected someone new, someone softer, more elegant, yet undeniably alive with my own thoughts and emotions. By the end of the session, I was fully Lila. The sensation was intoxicating. Every sway of my skirt, every step in the heels, every tilt of my head carried a thrill I had never felt before. But with it came a gnawing anxiety. What if Emma walked in unexpectedly? What if someone saw me before I was ready? The excitement of transformation was inseparable from the fear of exposure. The suspense heightened during my first solo venture outside. Mom insisted that I accompany her to a high-end boutique, not just to shop, but to learn how to navigate the world as Lila. The streets were crowded, eyes curious, glances fleeting but assessing. I felt every stare, every whisper, every passing look as a potential threat. Lila's confidence surged, but so did my tension. My secret life was no longer confined to the private space of my room. It was exposed to the world, every step a balancing act between grace and vulnerability. At the boutique, a stylist approached, complimenting my outfit. "You have a great sense of style," she said, her smile genuine. I felt a rush of pride, tempered by the constant awareness that I was playing a role, walking the line between Ryan and Lila. Every compliment, every glance, was a reminder of the stakes. The world could see Lila, but Ryan's private self was still fragile beneath the surface. Back home, Emma called unexpectedly. My heart raced as I scrambled to maintain composure. I quickly adjusted my outfit, smoothing the skirt and checking my hair, ensuring every detail reflected Lila's persona. When I answered, Emma's voice was warm, oblivious to the transformation. "Hey, what are you doing later?" she asked. I managed a light laugh, concealing the tension in my voice. "Just some study work with Mom," I said, keeping my tone casual. The following days blurred into a routine of transformation, practice, and internal conflict. Mom's guidance was relentless, but her methods had a hidden brilliance. She pushed me, challenged me, and forced me to embrace Lila fully. Each exercise, each outfit, each moment in front of the mirror was a test of identity, endurance, and emotional fortitude. One evening, as I practiced walking in heels across the hardwood floor, I stumbled slightly, the sensation of vulnerability sharp in my chest. Lila's hands reached instinctively to steady herself, fingers brushing my reflection in the mirror. The duality of my existence struck me, the thrill of femininity, the fear of exposure, and the delicate balance between secrecy and self-expression. Mom watched silently, a faint smile on her lips. "Grace, Ryan," she said softly, "you must embody Lila fully, even when no one is watching. Every movement, every glance, every word, it matters." The tension intensified during an unexpected visit from Emma. She arrived early, catching me mid-transformation. My heart raced, sweat prickling my skin. I forced a calm smile, adjusting my blouse and smoothing my skirt. Emma paused, tilting her head. "You look really different," she said, curiosity mixed with admiration. Lila's confidence surged, but beneath it, Ryan's anxiety simmered. Could I maintain the balance, hide the duality, and navigate Emma's presence without revealing the full truth? The suspense became almost unbearable when a neighbor, curious about my mother's sudden obsession with fashion, stopped by. Mom welcomed her in, oblivious to the tension, while I crouched behind a curtain, fully Lila, heart pounding. Every breath, every movement, every whispered word was a test. Exposure could come at any moment, and the thrill of secrecy intensified my emotions. Fear, excitement, vulnerability, and exhilaration intertwined into a powerful, almost addictive sensation. Even in the private moments, the transformation challenged me emotionally. Lila wasn't just a persona. I felt her desires, her confidence, and her delicate awareness merging with my own. Each glance in the mirror revealed subtle changes in posture, expression, and emotion. The skirts, the blouses, the heels, and the accessories weren't just aesthetic. They were tools, amplifying both identity and suspense. By the end of the week, I had fully embraced Lila's physical appearance. But emotional transformation lagged behind, a delicate dance of fear and thrill, secrecy and revelation. The suspense of potential discovery, the thrill of fully inhabiting Lila, and the constant negotiation with Emma and Mom created a tension that was both intoxicating and exhausting. Every decision, from how to answer the phone, to how to walk through the apartment, to how to smile at Emma, was fraught with stakes. Exposure loomed like a shadow, anticipation sharpened every sensation, and the duality of Ryan and Lila created a suspenseful, electrifying tension that I had never experienced. And then came the first real test, the moment that would push my transformation to the breaking point. Mom announced an outing, a social gathering with friends and acquaintances, where I would be fully presented as Lila in public. The thrill of debuting, the fear of exposure, and the emotional weight of balancing two identities collided. Every step, every glance, every heartbeat was a countdown to suspense, the anticipation almost unbearable. As I looked in the mirror before leaving, adjusting my skirt and smoothing my hair, Lila's eyes met mine. There was a silent understanding. We were entering the world together, stylish, feminine, and completely exposed. And the tension was just beginning. The night of the social gathering arrived, and I felt a mixture of exhilaration and dread unlike anything I had experienced before. Mom had prepared meticulously. My outfit was flawless, my makeup impeccable, and every strand of hair perfectly in place. The skirt swayed with every step, the heels elevated my posture, and Lila's confidence hummed beneath my skin. But beneath it all, Ryan's anxiety simmered. Every moment outside the apartment was a test, every glance a potential threat, every word a tightrope walk between secrecy and exposure. As we approached the upscale venue, my heartbeat quickened. The city lights shimmered off the polished streets, reflecting my own mixture of fear and thrill. Mom held my hand briefly, giving a reassuring squeeze. "You're ready, Lila. Remember, elegance, poise, confidence. Own every step," she whispered. Stepping inside, I felt the energy of the room wash over me. The chatter, laughter, and soft clinking of glasses created a symphony of social life, a world in which Lila would have to perform flawlessly. I smiled, nodded, and greeted acquaintances with a practiced ease. Compliments came, subtle glances lingered, and I felt the intoxicating mix of validation and tension. Every word, every movement, reminded me of the duality I carried, Ryan, hidden beneath Lila's confident exterior. Midway through the evening, I noticed Emma slipping in unexpectedly, her expression a mix of curiosity and surprise. My chest tightened. She hadn't been invited, and now the stakes had risen. Lila's composure had to hold, or the delicate balance of my secret life could unravel in seconds. Emma approached, tilting her head. "Ryan, or should I say, Lila?" she asked softly, amusement dancing in her eyes. My stomach nodded. Lila's confidence surged, urging me to answer with grace, while Ryan's fear clutched at my heart. "It's Lila tonight," I managed, my voice trembling slightly under the scrutiny. She smiled, intrigued but not judging. "Wow, you look incredible," she said. Relief mixed with exhilaration. My dual identity had survived its first true test. But the night was far from over. The evening progressed, and Mom's friends observed me with quiet fascination. Whispers and subtle glances circulated, each one a reminder of how exposed Lila, and by extension, Ryan, had become. I laughed, conversed, and moved through the crowd, my movements fluid, yet taut with suspense. Every misstep could reveal the truth. Every word spoken could slip into uncharted territory. The first real obstacle appeared when a neighbor, whom I had tried to avoid, suddenly approached. Her gaze lingered, sharp and curious. "I didn't know Ryan had a sister," she exclaimed, a sly grin spreading across her face. Panic surged. I forced a polite laugh, adjusting my skirt and smoothing my hair. Yes, just trying something new," I said carefully, my words balanced between explanation and secrecy. Mom's eyes met mine across the room, a silent reminder to maintain composure. But the tension didn't subside. Emma leaned in, her voice barely audible. "Are you okay?" she whispered. I nodded, swallowing the rising anxiety. The thrill of Lila's presence was intoxicating, but the fear of exposure was an equally potent force. Then came the symbolic moment, the defining challenge of the night. As I walked across the polished floor, a sudden stumble in my heels sent a shock of fear through me. My skirt shifted, threatening to reveal more than intended. Lila's hands instinctively smoothed the fabric, heart racing, every muscle tense. I caught myself just in time, but the incident left me acutely aware of how fragile the facade could be. Mom approached, whispering a reminder to breathe and compose myself. I nodded, grateful for her support, but the adrenaline coursing through my veins was overwhelming. Every glance, every compliment, every subtle judgment from the crowd was magnified, each one a potential trigger for panic or exposure. As the evening continued, an unexpected twist pushed the suspense to its peak. Emma's friend, unaware of my secret, approached with teasing curiosity. "Lila, you're amazing. You always dress so stylishly." "Ryan would never pull this off," she said, laughter in her tone. My pulse spiked. Lila's confidence wavered, Ryan's panic threatening to surface. I smiled, nodded, and deflected with practiced grace, but the internal struggle was fierce. The physical and emotional tension became almost unbearable. I moved through the crowd like a dancer on a wire, balancing elegance and poise against the ever-present fear of discovery. Every whisper, every glance, every laugh from the crowd heightened the suspense. Could I maintain Lila's persona without Ryan's anxiety spilling over? The night demanded perfection, and the cost of failure was exposure, judgment, and the collapse of a carefully constructed dual identity. The symbolic moment that cemented the climax arrived unexpectedly. While adjusting my hair near a mirrored wall, my reflection caught me in a fleeting lapse. For a split second, Ryan's features shimmered through Lila's, a ghostly reminder of the person beneath the polished exterior. My breath caught and I froze, heart hammering. The duality of my existence, the thrill of transformation, the fear of discovery, the seductive pull of secrecy, was crystallized in that mirror. Emma's voice pulled me back. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I forced a smile, hiding the tumultuous emotions beneath calm eyes. "Yes, just a little dizzy," I said, though the lie tasted bitter on my tongue. The mirror reflected more than my image. It reflected the suspense, the risk, the exhilaration, and the fragile equilibrium I was trying desperately to maintain. The final obstacle arrived in the form of a misplaced high heel. As I navigated the crowd, one heel slipped, threatening to topple me entirely. Lila's instincts kicked in, regaining balance at the last second, but the incident sent waves of panic through my system. Mom rushed over, discreetly studying me. The near mishap intensified the suspense. The fine line between grace and exposure had never felt so narrow. As the evening wound down, I realized that Lila had survived the night in public, fully embodied, yet constantly teetering on the edge of discovery. The thrill, the anxiety, the duality of identity, it was a potent mixture that left me exhilarated, exhausted, and acutely aware of the stakes ahead. In the car ride home, I sat silently, reflecting on the night's events. Lila's persona had endured, but Ryan's vulnerability remained, a quiet undercurrent of fear beneath the polished surface. The suspense wasn't over. Every glance from Emma, every interaction, every potential observer reminded me that this transformation was both a gift and a trap, a thrilling exploration of identity intertwined with the constant risk of exposure. The night ended with a moment of uneasy calm. Mom congratulated me softly, her eyes gleaming with pride. "You did beautifully, Lila. Remember, this is just the beginning." But the climax had already sown the seeds of the next challenge. The thrill of transformation, the tension of secrecy, and the fear of discovery lingered, unresolved. Every heartbeat, every reflection, every whispered thought promised that the suspense, the emotional stakes, and the delicate balance between Ryan and Lila would continue to intensify. The drive home was quiet, the city lights passing in a blurred stream of gold and silver through the car window. Mom hummed softly to herself, a satisfied smile on her lips. I sat beside her, heels tapping lightly against the floor, heart still racing from the night's events. Lila had survived her public debut, but Ryan's anxiety refused to fade. Every glance, every whispered compliment from the crowd replayed in my mind, a mixture of pride and dread twisting in my chest. "Mom, do you think Emma noticed anything?" I asked cautiously, twisting my fingers in my lap. My voice wavered between Lila's confident tone and Ryan's nervous undertone. Mom glanced at me, her smile enigmatic. "Not unless you let her," she replied softly. "Remember, Lila, confidence isn't just a posture. It's a shield. You've done brilliantly tonight, but tomorrow is another test." The words sent a shiver down my spine. Another test? The thrill of Lila's persona was addictive, yet the weight of secrecy and the ever-present fear of exposure pressed heavily on me. I wanted to relax, to sink into the exhilaration of transformation, but the tension refused to lift. Back at the apartment, I began the nightly routine of removing the outfit, the makeup, the carefully constructed illusions that defined Lila. As I slipped out of the heels, the fabric of the skirt brushing against my legs, a strange vulnerability enveloped me. Ryan returned in fragments with each piece removed, and the duality of my existence became painfully clear. The mirror reflected my face, Lila's elegance lingering like a ghost, Ryan's features reasserting themselves beneath. Just as I thought the evening had ended, a knock echoed through the apartment. My heart lurched violently. No one had a reason to be here. Who could it be at this hour? Mom's expression shifted subtly, eyes narrowing. "I'll get it," she said, moving toward the door. My hands trembled slightly as I tugged at the edges of my blouse, trying to straighten Lila's form one last time. The door opened to reveal a figure I hadn't anticipated. Emma, standing in the hallway, her expression unreadable. My stomach dropped. Time seemed to freeze. "Ryan, she began, hesitation in her voice. "Can we talk?" Her gaze flicked past Mom to me, scanning the room, and the weight of exposure pressed down like a physical force. I forced a calm smile, attempting to inhabit Lila fully, even as panic clawed at my chest. "Sure," I said carefully, my voice steadier than I felt. Mom's presence was reassuring, yet the uncertainty of Emma's intentions made every heartbeat deafening. Emma stepped inside, closing the door behind her. The air was thick with tension, a charged silence filling the room. I could feel Ryan and Lila colliding inside me, the vulnerability of my private transformation laid bare before someone I cared about deeply. "Tonight at the gathering," Emma began, her tone gentle but probing. "I saw you." "Lila, I wasn't sure what to say, but..." Her eyes searched mine, and I realized the moment of truth had arrived. Exposure was no longer a hypothetical threat. It was here, hovering at the edge of conversation, ready to erupt. I opened my mouth, unsure whether to speak as Ryan or Lila. Words faltered, and silence stretched between us. Every heartbeat thumped in my ears, a countdown to revelation. Mom watched quietly, an unreadable smile playing on her lips. She had orchestrated this transformation, guided me through every step, and now the final test had arrived. Could I maintain the balance, hide Ryan beneath Lila, and navigate Emma's scrutiny without shattering the fragile equilibrium I had built? Emma took a cautious step closer. "Are you okay with this?" she asked softly, voice laced with curiosity and concern. Her gaze lingered on my reflection in the mirror across the room, where Lila's features shimmered in the soft lighting. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. Lila's confidence surged instinctively, whispering reassurances I barely felt, while Ryan's fear and vulnerability screamed for honesty. Every second stretched endlessly, every breath became a calculated measure of control. The duality of identity, the thrill of transformation, and the fear of exposure collided violently in my chest. Before I could answer, my heel caught on the edge of the rug, a subtle stumble that made me gasp audibly. Lila instinctively steadied herself, smoothing the skirt and adjusting her posture, but the incident crystallized the fragility of the moment. Emma's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Mom stepped forward, calm and composed, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. "Lila is exactly who she is," she said softly, her voice carrying reassurance, pride, and a subtle warning all at once. But Emma's expression remained unreadable, and the suspense hung in the room like a tangible weight. I could feel Ryan and Lila vibrating with tension, the dual identities colliding more intensely than ever before. The night, the transformation, the exposure, all led to this suspended instant, where every glance, every word, every heartbeat was a test of secrecy, courage, and emotional resilience. Emma took a slow breath, her gaze fixed on me. "I need to understand," she whispered, and the uncertainty shattered the fragile calm I had clung to. The revelation was imminent. The night, the contract, the transformation, it had all built to this cliffhanger moment. And then, just as I opened my mouth to respond, the power flickered in the apartment, plunging the room into half-light. Shadows danced across the walls, stretching Lila's reflection and my own into an indistinguishable blur. The sudden darkness magnified every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of doubt. Emma gasped softly. Mom's hand tightened slightly on my shoulder, a silent signal of both protection and suspense. I stood frozen, caught between the thrill of being Lila, the fear of Ryan being discovered, and the weight of Emma's watchful eyes. The phone buzzed on the counter, a text from an unknown number flashing across the screen. My pulse jumped. Another layer of suspense, another potential threat. Mom's eyes flicked to the message, her expression unreadable. Emma glanced at it too, curiosity mixed with unease. The room held its breath. The identities, the secrets, and the delicate balance of Ryan and Lila teetered on the edge of revelation. The tension was electric, suffocating, and irresistible all at once. And then, silence. The story paused, unresolved. Would Emma accept Lila, or uncover Ryan's secret? Would Mom's experiment continue without interference, or had the fragile facade already cracked? The night left questions unanswered, suspense lingering, and viewers on the edge of their seats, desperate to know what would happen next.